From a very young age, we have been taught that debt is a bad thing. But is it really? Because at the end of the day, debt is just a financial tool. How come some people use this financial tool better than others? Hello and welcome to my channel again. In this video, we're going to have a look at what is debt. Is debt good or bad? How to effectively use debt? How come rich people use debt to stay rich or earn more, while average Joe like me go bankrupt? According to Wikipedia, it is defined as debt is an obligation that requires one party, the debtor, to pay money or other agreed upon value to another party, the creditor. Debt is a deferred payment or series of repayment or series of payment which differentiates it from an immediate purchase. So that credit in your credit card is a form of debt. Car finance, debt. Car lease, debt. Buy now, pay later, still a debt. House mortgage, debt. Even your karma is a debt. How? Well, you know what they say, karma is a bitch. You do something bad now and have to pay later, debt repaid. That was a joke, don't take that seriously. Debt is a financial tool, and like any other tool, it depends on how you use it. Especially in the present time, it is really hard to achieve something without using any kind of debt. A basic example will be a housing sector. Gone are the days when you can save up penny by penny and outright buy a land or a house. Now, if you decide to buy a house without any debt financing, you will probably end up playing a catch up with the housing market. You will save up money and find that the housing market has gone up, the price has gone up. Then you start to save again and it will go up again. So it will always be like you will be trying to catch with the market and the market will just keep eluding you. Unless you want to buy a house far away from the civilization. I, on the other hand, love living in the city or near city, so long-term debt is probably gonna become my long-term friend. Anyways, debt is a financial tool. When used properly, it can help you prosper in life faster. This is why debt is also called leverage, the act of using lever. If you don't know what lever is, it is a tool that lets you do stuff beyond your capability. For example, you want to roll over the boulder, but you can't because of your strength. Use a lever. You want to change a car tire, but you cannot lift the car. You can use a jack lift. The jack lift allows you to lift the car which weighs more than your strength. These are the example of using lever. Same way, debt can be a tool or lever for your financial gain. Let me give you a straightforward example. Suppose you got $50,000. Now you want to invest this money. If you receive 10% return on your investment, then $50,000 will return you $5,000. So your return on equity or ROE will be $5,000. However, if you borrow additional $50,000 against your $50,000, which is also known as using the margin. So if you do that, in that case, if your return on investment is still 10%, then you will receive $10,000 instead of $5,000. So your return on equity has just doubled. Now, usually there are other risks, but this is a straightforward example. In real life, it is not very simple, but this simple example is just to give you an idea. Now, understand that if you don't manage your debts properly, you can get into serious trouble. Getting into debt without planning or doing your due diligence can cripple you financially for years. Here are a few tips how you can effectively manage debt. Develop your budget and track your expenses. Always make sure that you know where you're spending which amount of money. Because when you are worried about pennies, only then you will notice where the money is. Only take debt within your means. Don't take a debt that you cannot service. Suppose you went out to a bank for a debt and they calculated based on your earnings you can borrow say $50,000. But should you really borrow $50,000? Should you stretch yourself to the limit? That is the question you should ask yourself. Prioritize your bill and pay them on time. Always prioritize your bills such as utility bill, phone bill, things like that, because most of the time they will have some kind of incentive attached. Reduce credit card usage and number of credit cards. Of course, this is a no-brainer. Try to limit the number of credit card you use as much as possible. Try to secure the best interest rate for your debt. This is also another no-brainer. When you are going to take a debt, shop around to different banks, go to different services and try to get the best rate as possible. How to effectively use debt? In my opinion, best way to effectively use debt is to understand the use of debt and then the return against that debt. Remember in the previous example of $50,000 investment? Now think of this way. If your interest is more than 10%, then your borrowing of $50,000 to invest doesn't make any sense anymore because your repayment will be more than the dividend you will get from your investment. So always consider the interest rate and other factors and your own cash flow and what return you will get when you get into that debt before you take any decision. For example, for average Joe like you and me, financing a Lamborghini doesn't make any sense as it is a depreciating asset. But it is not the same for car YouTuber whose entire business depends on having that Lamborghini and making video about it. So if he takes a debt for buying the Lamborghini with repayment like say $2,000 a month, but then his videos earn him more than that, suppose say $3,000, then that Lamborghini is no longer a liability for him, rather a business asset. How did rich people use debt effectively? You will find that most people use debt financing to secure things we can't even dream about. There is a saying floating around in the internet: if you can't buy a depreciating asset like sports car with cash, then don't buy. I would say that's not entirely correct in my opinion. If I have $100,000 budget, then why would I spend it entirely to buy a sports car? I would rather finance it in a sensible way with enough cash down payment and then invest the remaining to get dividends. Let me give you another simple example. Suppose salary saving of 15,000. So basically you have a steady earning or cash flow, and from there after your expenses you're saving say $15,000 monthly, and the interest rate for the loan is say 6%. Suppose your investments yield 8% dividend. Now assuming this is a 5-year period loan and with monthly repayment, our total number of repayment will be 60, right? 12 into 5, 12 monthly payments for 5 years is 60 repayments. One more thing, underlying assets depreciation rate is around 10% yearly. I didn't want to go through calculations to reduce the liability based on the capital repayment included the debt payment, so I just left it there and removed it entirely on the final year. But from the example, you can see that at the end of the 5-year period, if one doesn't use any debt, their net worth will be $140,610 based on the fact that they will have a salary saving of $15,000. And if somebody uses the debt, then their net worth would be $155,000. Now, you can say that all of this to just get a $15,000 extra, but if you look carefully, that is equivalent of 1 year's saving. Not to mention, usually dividend yielding assets such as say stock, they usually appreciate over the time. So after 5 years, probably end up with asset which is valued more than $60,000. But the calculation is not this simple. You need to account for other things such as inflations when doing this calculation. That is why you should reach out to a qualified financial planner to plan these things out. Everyone's situation is different and therefore should consult authorized financial planner before taking a financial decision. This video is not a financial advice, therefore do not consider it as one. Another example, everybody considers home as their first solid investment. But what if the inflation and interest combined is higher than the rate of appreciation of the value? Or suppose you bought an apartment and it had a catastrophic issue which caused the value to plummet. Then you will have negative equity and will end up dragging that financial liability for years. Suddenly the home doesn't sound like a good investment, does it? Well, in all fairness, investing in home really is a solid investment and a lot less risky than the stock market. But as I said it in the beginning, do your due diligence and research before buying a home. Think and make decision with your brain, not emotion. These are assets. Treat them like one. And I think that what makes rich people use debt more efficiently. They plan their budget, plan their cash flow, and treats their asset like asset. Makes decision based on their research and investment ideology. And this is why, in my opinion, debt is not inherently good or bad. It is a financial tool. Use it properly, you can multiply your gain, and use it unwisely, say buy a Gucci product with your credit card. Well, now after talking for so long, I don't need to explain that, do I? As always, if you like my video, subscribe, like the video. If you have any comments that can help me improve, feel free to leave that in the comment. And if you don't like my video, feel free to check out other videos recommended by the YouTube on the right side of the screen.